Good morning, everybody. Happy Hump Day to you. This is Wednesday, April 16th, 2025, and I have all your stories for your rush hour ride to work. And on today's episode, more updates about the pushback from the astronauts in the Blue Origin launch from several days ago. We'll actually hear from Katy Perry and Gayle King as they say, we weren't just on an amusement park ride, and we'll find out if we agree with them or if our eyes are going to roll further back into our head. And after that, do you remember the lady who was accused of a murder for hire plot for her husband? Her husband is on the Ghost Adventure show. Well, as it turns out, she pled guilty. I'll have that story for you. And are the Olympics at risk? Phil DeFranco thinks so. The Olympics, of course, supposed to come to U.S. next in Los Angeles, and maybe the World Cup as well. Also, a new report says that the U.S. may lose up to $80 billion in tourism due to folks not wanting to come by anymore. And then an update on Columbia University, what they did to acquiesce to the current administration and what Harvard said they won't do. You might hear, and again, I wish these stories weren't so heavy, but this is what's ruling the news. It's wild out there. And I like to say our channel's kind of giving you an update on what to expect at the water cooler today. And these are the stories that are really making the front of the news. And then immigration, as we have the senator from Maryland says, I'm going to El Salvador, and we'll find out what his plan is. And then also at the very end of this episode, I have an update on the subpoena, the mystery subpoena in the Justin Baldoni case. Well, as it turns out, I received an email from somebody who was caught in the crosshairs. It's very fascinating. I'll get into that story last. So all these stories and more, it's all happening right now on The Rush. Well, Ghost Adventure's wife pleads guilty to plotting Aaron Goodwin's murder. You know, whatever happened to just a casual ghosting on somebody, even changing your identity? But really, you're going to try to kill somebody? Now, she had pled guilty in a plea bargain that gives her less of a, I guess it'll give her less charges. Victoria Goodwin filed documents obtained by TMZ informing the judge in Clark County, Nevada. Why does this always happen in Nevada? That she intends to plead guilty to one of the 2 counts she was facing for allegedly plotting to kill her famous husband. She's copping to conspiracy to commit murder. In exchange, prosecutors will drop the charge of solicitation to commit murder, and prosecutors have agreed to make no recommendation to the judge on Goodwin's sentence. So she was busted last month after cops say they caught her messaging Florida inmate Grant Amato about killing Aaron. In one message, she said, "Am I a bad person because I chose to end his existence, not divorce?" That sounds like one of those rhetorical questions. Like, am I a bad person? And like very quickly, the answer is like, yes. You know, God's up there like, yeah, you are. No, you can't do that. You can't kill somebody, go through the divorce like a normal person. You know what I mean? All right, well, Amy Lou Wood may be divorcing herself from Saturday Night Live. She did not receive a formal apology from SNL, but again, this is the White Lotus star. She's got these beautiful kind of buck teeth. She's got like a gap. They're amazing, right? It's very unique to her. And of course, she was the butt of the joke on Saturday Night Live. They did a parody about her, which she took to heart. You know, I mean, hey, everyone's got their feels and their weak spots, and her teeth are kind of her signature thing, and of course they poked fun at that. Well, she actually received flowers, a gift from the actress on SNL who did the impression of her. So it looks like all's well here. And again, Amy Lou Wood seems like such a nice person, and you know, sadly you get sort of catapulted into this success, and as much as you'd like to say, well, have thick skin, I mean, who are we to judge how someone might feel, you know, being judged by partly of your facial appearance, right? All right, well, we're judging these astronauts, right? We're judging the hell out of them. They went to space. Gayle King is disappointed by the backlash she's received. My guess is, before we even play this, my guess is she's not going to properly address why people are upset. And the quick answer is it's because Blue Origin is funded by Jeff Bezos, who is single-handedly his company has put a lot of people out of business, and they kind of have used, artificial intelligence and automation to really drive the prices down for goods, which is good for the consumer, but at what cost, right? And of course, if he only just paid his fair share of taxes, we'd have Medicare for all, right? Either way, here's what Gayle had to say.
This is what bothers me, because I've certainly read some of the things online, coming from people that I know, that I like, that I consider friends. Space is not an either or, it's a both and because you do something in space doesn't mean you're taking anything away from Earth. And what you're doing in space is trying to make things better here on Earth. What Blue Origin wants to do is take the waste here and figure out a way to put it in space to make our planet cleaner. I mean, Jeff Bezos has so many ideas, and the people that are working there are really devoted and dedicated to making our planet a better place. That's number one. Number two, there was nothing frivolous about what we did. So, I'm very disappointed and very saddened by it. And I also say this, what it's doing to inspire other women and young girls, please don't ignore that. I've had so many women.
Yes, you too can do an 11-minute trip into space. I think the point is that it's just a bad PR stunt. Like, they didn't really do anything while they were up there. They weren't studying the, microbiology of, they just went up for a trip and they came back down, right? And I think the idea is you can't say that Jeff Bezos wants to make the world a better place when his company actively union busts, when people tried to unionize and get workers' rights treated better for their companies, And I live near one of these Amazon monstrosities. It's insane how big these plants are, these sort of consumerist just distribution points. And now that we're seeing with tariffs, I mean, what's this going to do for all the cheap shit we love to buy, I'm not sure. But so I think she misses the mark on understanding why people are upset. And again, it's not about her. They're just so unlikable. Like, no offense to Katy Perry. I love her music. She's fun and quirky, right? But nobody cares. Nobody cared. Nobody knew that this was her lifelong dream. Now, we shared Amanda Wynn's story. That's a fantastic story. I wish we had a rocket ship full of stories like Amanda Wynn's. Here's Katy Perry. Here's what she has to say.
For me, like Gil said, this wasn't a ride. It wasn't a destination.
It was a ride. And in fact, I've been on rides at Six Flags that are actually longer than the 11 minutes they were, quote unquote, in space.
It was a journey, and it was a supernatural one. My journey has always been about love and belonging, and I think that we have all felt that sometimes we weren't worthy.
Okay, so she gets into this we weren't worthy thing. No, what are you talking about? You're a white woman pop star. You've got the most privilege in the world. You're an American Idol host alumni. Like, you're doing fine, Katie. You're okay. You kissed the dirt. You made it back alive. And again, I don't mean to be snarky. I think I'm just trying to address the actual point people have, which is bring that energy you have for space down to America and the people in our world that are exploited at some of these places they work in our own country, right? So literally down the street from me, right? Okay, anyhow, I think I've made my point. All right, well, the Olympics, dum, 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 dum. Boom, 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 boom. Okay, you get it. Phil DeFranco says, hey, maybe they will not be in the United States. Does he have a point, or is he just fear-mongering? Let's have a listen.
So no one's coming to America anymore, and we might end up losing the World Cup and the Olympics. Right? Tourism fell by 12% last month. That's the most since COVID. But then more specifically, tourism from Germany and Denmark falling by over 30%. It's down by over 25% for Spain, Norway, Ireland, and Austria. Australia and France are down by 7%. And then, on top of that, air travel from Canada, it's down over 75% from last year, in addition to a 32% reduction in car travel from Canada. With us even seeing the founder of Kayak having a lot to say about this, saying, quote, in just 2 months, Trump has destroyed the reputation of the U.S., shown one way by diminished travel from the EU to the U.S., and saying this is not only one more terrible blow to the U.S. economy, it also represents reputation damage that could take generations to repair. Additionally, another booking site found that 40% of Europeans have canceled their trips to America. And, Trump's policy of randomly detaining tourists and sending them to random prisons or deporting them immediately upon arrival, it's bringing a complete halt to tourism, according to travel companies.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, this would literally be the biggest trap for foreigners if they come into the United States for the Olympics. They might not make it out. Like, it used to be you would come into the United States during a sporting event to maybe apply for asylum or whatever if you're coming from a war-torn country. But now we're seeing literally, will we have the Olympics here? They would be in Trump's the last year, right? It'd be in 2028, so the last year of his term, or at least this term. I don't know if he wants to decide to run for another one. Why not? Go for it. What's this Constitution thing anyway? So the point is, this is scary stuff. This is really scary stuff and real world consequences. I mean, you can pull up any article and look at the information right here. Tourism pullback and boycott set to cost U.S. a staggering $90 billion. And by the way, this isn't just pulled out of my ass, right? This is from some people at Goldman Sachs, and they look at the other countries that are boycotting traveling to the U.S. and how big that is for our economy. And why does this matter? Well, it's like we spent so much time with these quote unquote Doge cuts, cutting thousands of federal jobs, all for what? To save 150 100 billion, whatever they said, dollars. And here we just show, just flat out, because of all of the fear people have, it's going to wipe away $90 billion just right there. And what will that do in the future? How long will this have a ripple effect? And will it get worse? Honestly, other countries right now are advising their citizens not to travel to the U.S. It's a dangerous time. I mean, people are traveling here and getting their phones searched to see what they talk about on social media. We're supposed to be the fabric of democracy. We're supposed to live by this institution that we show the rest of the world how this works, the freedom to say what's on your mind, to have an opinion, to protest wars. And as we watch right now, how quickly that can go away. Today's podcast is sponsored by Ancient Nutrition. For over 1,000 years, explorers the world over searched for and told tales of a mythical fountain said to restore one's youth and cure anything. Newsflash, it was never found. But hey, we do have collagen. While it's not a miracle, it is proven to be pretty darn good at helping you look and feel younger and more healthy. What's the best collagen, you ask? Well, it's made by Ancient Nutrition, of course. This formula is powered by clinically studied ingredients that promote fat loss and healthy weight management, as well as building lean muscle. Collagen can also reduce joint discomfort and improve the look and growth of your skin, hair, and nails. You know me, I'm a hair guy. Turning 40, I'm fighting father time. One scoop in the morning with a smoothie, that's all it takes. Right now, Ancient Nutrition is offering 25% off your first order when you go to ancientnutrition.com/rush-hour. That's ancientnutrition.com/rush-hour for 25% off your first order. ancientnutrition.com/rush-hour. Now, we have wild times happening on the college campuses, private college campuses. Let's go to CBS Mornings, how they explain how Harvard University wrote a letter denying, or I should say, rejecting the sort of demands that were made by the executive branch. They said, you know what, we don't want your money. We're not going to do the things that they're asking. Have a listen.
You know, the Trump administration has also taken new steps against Harvard University. We didn't know about that.
Last night, the White House announced a freeze of $2.2 billion in grants and a $60 million contract for Harvard University. This comes, Tony, after Harvard rejected demands that it institute changes in hiring and admissions to ensure what the Trump administration has been calling viewpoint diversity. The White House says they're just ensuring that taxpayer dollars do not go towards racial discrimination or racially motivated violence. But in a statement, Harvard said that it will not surrender its independence or relinquish its constitutional rights.
You know, and as far as I'm concerned, peaceful protests should be allowed to exist on campus, but we shouldn't be allowed to harass people. And it's like, you have to, if you're doing something illegal, you have to be arrested and go through that process. But this idea that we're now saying that protesters are damaging the fabric of our country. Well, the fabric of our country is the right to protest. Whether you're a U.S. citizen or not, we give all people due process that are in our country. So what happened in Colombia was we essentially had the Trump administration saying, well, they don't stand for anti-Semitism, so therefore they're going to be busting up some of these sort of clubs and communities and programs they're teaching. And now we have the Jewish Council for Public Affairs saying what you're doing is making this way worse. Let's listen to what they have to say.
A coalition of 10 nonpartisan Jewish organizations is out with a new statement now rejecting rejecting what it calls the false choice between Jewish safety and democracy. The coalition saying that the Trump administration's actions in the name of combating anti-Semitism are actually, in their view, making Jewish students feel less safe. Joining me now is the head of one of those organizations, Amy Spitalinik, the CEO of the Jewish Council for Public Affairs. Amy, welcome in. You say in that statement that I was just quoting from that, in your view, the administration's actions are undermining Jewish safety. What do you mean when you say that?
Well, look, anti-Semitism is real. We know that to be the case, and we've seen a horrific spike in anti-Semitism over the last year and a half, compounding already crisis levels of anti-Semitism that we've seen rise over the last decade. And at the same time, we are now seeing this administration exploit our community's legitimate concerns in order to go after democratic norms and rights, education institutions, including Harvard and so many others, as you just spoke about. And none of that is actually good for Jewish safety. Jewish safety is inextricably linked with inclusive democracy in which every community's rights and safety are protected. We know that actions like these don't start and stop with a couple of activists on a couple of college campuses.
Yeah, so it's this idea, right, that the administration is using anti-Semitism as an example to sort of push on more authoritarian control. And again, in the Atlantic, they said what Harvard learned from Columbia's mistake. If cooperation and even capitulation don't get you anywhere, why give in to the Trump administration's demands? Now, it's not just college campuses. We're seeing this with 60 Minutes, like ABC news organizations I think even Disney, right? Maybe I'm wrong about Disney, but they're settling lawsuits with Trump versus defending the freedom of the press. You saw this at the inauguration with Facebook and other major platforms. They're donating to his campaign to try to bend the knee and police him. And what did that get Mark Zuckerberg? Now he's actually, a trial is going through with him and Facebook. Bending the knee doesn't get you anything in these sorts of situations, and I think they're starting to learn that. But law firms, rather than deal with lawsuits from the Trump administration, are also, bending the knee to work with him to give him hundreds of hours of free legal work and pro bono work because, they don't want to get tangled in any of this mess. But again, as it's showing, united we stand and divided we fall, right? That's what it comes down to. So, wow, Harvard. Geez, I didn't think we'd have an article making them the likable people right now. But of course, I think you have to commend them for, saying, you know what, we don't want your dirty money. We're good. And we're not going to live up to your demands, because a lot of those demands had nothing to do with public safety. They really have to do with speech. And by the way, remember when the Republican Party stood for small government? What the hell are we doing out here? Well, here's what we had to hear. And by the way, the Columbia alumni are so pissed. This is going to really, really hurt the university. Here's a retired member of Columbia Law.
Hi, this is Catherine Franke, retired member of the Columbia Law faculty. Columbia University was founded 271 years ago as King's College. It later reincorporated itself as Columbia University in the city of New York. What I am hearing is that tomorrow we will learn that the university has agreed to a form of formal oversight and governance by the Trump administration, thus rendering Columbia University a subsidiary of the federal government.
It's wild stuff, right? It's wild stuff. So we'll have to see that. That announcement should come today. We'll give more information as it comes to exactly what that entails, but pretty wild stuff. Well, from what's happening on college campuses to what's happening with the El Salvador prison system, we actually have somebody standing up, and that's Senator Chris Van Hollen of Maryland, and he's announcing that he will officially be traveling to El Salvador to check up on Albrego Garcia, the man that was wrongfully sent to this prison.
I think you announced today that you're going to be going to El Salvador. You had said earlier in the week you're going to try to talk to President Bukele. Failing that, you would go to El Salvador. Tell me what your plan is here.
Well, Chris, you laid out the stakes very clearly, both for the country in terms of the Trump attack on freedom and in the case of Kilmar, who is Exhibit A of a bully trying to start by picking on the most vulnerable. So I promised that his wife and his family that I would do everything I could 24/7 to try to bring him home. And that's why I am going to El Salvador. Two reasons. One is to try to talk to government officials about his release. This is a person who the Trump administration conceded had been erroneously abducted and sent to the prison in El Salvador, and to see about how he's doing, what his personal welfare is.
All right, so they're trying to find out if this guy's even alive, to be honest. So imagine being him. He has no idea that there's this kind of national fight happening over him. Here's what his wife had to say. His wife, an American citizen, they have several children, and she spoke, obviously, as she's been trying to keep the publicity moving in the right direction, and she doesn't even know if he's alive at this point.
Of after his disappearance, and I stand before you filled with spirit that refuses to bring down. I will not stop fighting until I see my husband alive. Kilmer, if you can hear me, stay strong. God hasn't forgotten about you. Our children are asking, when would you come home? And I pray for the day I tell them the time and date that you'll return. As we continue through Holy Week, my heart aches for my husband, who should have been here leading our Easter prayers. Instead, I find myself pleading with the Trump administration and the Bukele administration.
Now, the Trump administration is not flinching on this one. Here's White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt mocking Kilmer Abrego Garcia. They keep on saying he's this dangerous gang member, never been charged with a crime, and really there's no proof or evidence that he was ever part of a gang.
On that note, the Democrat and media outrage over the deportation of Abrego Garcia, an MS-13 El Salvadorian illegal alien criminal who is hiding in Maryland, has been nothing short of despicable. Based on the sensationalism of many of the people in this room, you would think we deported a candidate for Father of the Year. On that,
she can rot in hell as far as I'm concerned. I mean, you just can't believe these people actually sleep at night. You can't. I know this is tough to watch, but this story I'm about to share with you took place 2 towns away from my hometown, and it's taking place right here in Massachusetts, and it's not without any effort by the local governments to stop it, but you can just watch for yourself. Here is the moment the ICE agents broke into an undocumented immigrant's car as he waited for his lawyer to show up.
An undocumented Guatemalan man was arrested by federal agents after they smashed his car window. Cell phone video shows Juan Francisco Menendez and his wife surrounded by federal agents after being pulled over in New Bedford, Massachusetts. Francisco Menendez called his lawyer for help, and she told the couple to hand the agents her business card and tell them she was on her way.
Mi abogada viene en camino.
A federal agent is heard telling the couple in Spanish that they can either do it the, quote, easy way or the hard way before threatening to smash the car window. Minutes later, video shows an agent smash Francisco Menendez's car window with a hammer.
And then now he's been taken to a detention center. And again, this is a man who, with a lawyer, was waiting to have his lawyer have his rights taken and instead put off in an unmarked car to a different location where he may or may not wait some sort of trial, or he may just be flat out deported. Now, why is that interesting? Well, of course it's interesting because this is horrific. But as we shared yesterday, this video from New Hampshire, this is a different man actually. There's a lot going on in New England. The video I showed yesterday was the New Hampshire courthouse elevator where a man was tackled an elderly man was taken down, and they kind of tackled him as they were. ICE ended up arresting this man, a Venezuelan man. You see here, we shared this yesterday. The elderly man was run over in the process, but this guy that was there for his meeting to, be interviewed and try to get legal citizenship. The way they always say, do it through this process. Well, now today we actually have this interview that aired that's the wrong video. We have an interview right here where there's a man who was a Palestinian involved in protests at Columbia University. He sat down with CBS News 24 hours before he was taken into custody by ICE agents. His attorney said the arrest happened when he arrived at a citizenship interview in Vermont. So he's there trying to do it the right way. And what he claims is they're using this idea that we're all like terrorist supporters, and that's just not the case.
What do you want people to hear from you in the case that you are detained?
I want people to know that my compassion extended beyond the Palestinian people. My compassion is also for the Jewish people and for the Israelis as well. The accusation that the pro-Palestine movement at Columbia was anti-Semitic is a false accusation. And it is unjust accusation.
I mean, listen, no one's denying that anti-Semitism exists in the world. No one's denying that. But if there's no proof that they were part of a movement that was anti-Semitic, they're saying they were just there supporting the innocent lives that are being bombed and supporting innocent people and wanting the war to stop. So just how crazy is this that sort of simple free speech to want the bombs to stop, to want our country to stop funding it, leads to him being called anti-Semitic, me being called anti-Semitic. People you're silenced with shame, all because you just want an end to the carnage. Just wild stuff. I know this is heavy, but this is what is the central storyline pulsating through our country right now. I would be absolutely remiss, I can't just cover Bachelor news, who's kissing who. Peter Weber spotted with Kelly Brannigan. Are you kidding me? That's what'll stop me from sleeping at night. Now, in another story, I do want to offer clarification that I received regarding Justin Baldoni and the subpoena, right? So we've covered this ICE subpoena idea where no one really knows how Jones' work was subpoenaed to release their text messages in the Baldoni versus Blake Lively case. Now, I know this isn't that big of a story as far as with all the other crazy stuff out there, but I did receive a response from Marilyn Starkloff. She is the photographer who has been in the center of a conspiracy theory that has floated online. And to be fair, one that I shared, even though I thought it was far-fetched, I did share it. So I want to do my part to share what she has to say. Now, the idea was that because she sued Ryan Reynolds' Gin Aviation Company because they used one of her copyright images, and because of that has somehow led to her hiring a PR company that ended up getting the subpoena attached to them. It's full Looney Tunes. So what she has to say is that she has no affiliation whatsoever with Stephanie Jones or Jones' work. She's never worked with her and doesn't even know her. The speculation that she was involved in any coordinated PR campaign or subpoena-related action is completely false. Now, sadly, as we forget when we get caught up in these things, when you bring somebody into one of these stories, a feeding frenzy of chaos and drama, people want to find stuff that's not there. They want to overturn information and crack into people's personal lives. And it can lead to paranoia and it can lead to harassment and things like that because the internet's full of some crazy people out there. So all I can tell my audience is just remember kindness up front, and never, when we cover these stories, contact anybody on a personal level. In fact, Marilyn, she's worked with these companies because she's a very influential, and she's a really great photographer. So she's obviously good at what she does. And we, at my community, would like to leave space for her to live that life and pursue her creativity. I know how stifled I would be if there was a bunch of people online poking into my private life because I got tangled up and for no reason whatsoever into some great conspiracies. So for my sort of involvement in that, seriously, absolute apologies. And just a reminder for us to take a breath and slow down. And I'll try to keep delivering the news here and not try to flame up any sensationalism. And I expect the same out of my audience. All right, well, we'll have to see if there's any other stories that come out during the work day today. Otherwise, we'll be back this afternoon to round up all of your news stories. We'll see you then. I'm Dave Neal, and this is The Rush.